In the mystical city of Sfad, high up in the Galil in Israel, a young man sat at a table. He was learning to be a scribe. In front of him was the parchment, the skin of a kosher animal that he, using a reed instrument, had etched the lines into for when he was going to be ready to begin his task. And then he used special ink, and he began to practice his letters late into the night. It was long, hard work. He needed to concentrate, and some of those letters had beautiful embellishments, like crowns upon some of the letters. He worked so late that he actually fell asleep, and in his sleep he dreamt about a beautiful maiden in a golden dress. But she was pleading with him, "Save me, save me." He woke up immediately. He took his quill, and he jumped up. He didn't see anybody. There was nobody in front of him, so he took his quill again in his hand. He dipped it in the ink, and he began to write his letters, practicing each and every one diligently. And then he heard a buzzing sound behind him. He turned around and he looked, and there in the back of the window, behind him, shining in the moonlight, in the open window, was the most magnificent, intricate spider web. And on that web was a tiny golden bee. He had never seen such a thing before, but coming straight forward to that bee was a big black spider. So he jumped up immediately, took the back end of his quill, and he dismantled that web to knock the spider to the floor. He took his quill and he pulled that little bee and rescued her and placed it on a prayer shawl that was on his desk. And there he watched the magnificent gift from God begin to move ever so gently, trying to shed the remaining strands that were still entangled on her body. And when she did, she rolled several times off of that prayer shawl, dipped her feet into the ink, and then hopped onto a plain piece of paper and began to dance about wildly all around the paper. And then she spread her wings, flew past the Arona Kodesh and went right out of the window. Well, he watched in amazement, and then she was gone. He went back to his desk, he took a look. He was stunned. For there, that little dance that she had just done, she left behind 7 Hebrew letters forming 2 words. Toda Rabbah, thank you. He was amazed. And then he thought, was this bee a gift? Just, one of those beautiful creatures of God that appeared and then disappeared? Or was this a sign from God? He was, after all, in the mystical city. He wondered if it was a message from God telling him that he was, in fact, ready to begin to do the work of being a scribe, a Torah writer, a sofer. And so he thought for a few minutes. He looked again at her words, Toda Rabbah. And then he said the special prayers, declaring his intention to begin to write the Torah. And then he tested his quill to make sure it was suitable. He tested the ink to make sure it was just right. And then on a separate piece of paper, he wrote the name Amalek. He spelled it out. And then he scratched it out. For that name was once a biblical nation that tried to get rid of the Jewish people. So it was commanded of him to blot that name out first. And then just before he took his quill and was about to begin to write on that parchment that he had prepared, he once again looked at the 2 words that she had written. And then with all the humility in his heart, he looked up to the heavens and said, Bevakasha, you're welcome.